YouTube here. All right, hey everybody, and welcome to Pro Artist Reviews Portfolios. I'm me. I'm me. That's me, Bobby Chiu. Hi, I'm an artist in the entertainment industry, movies, television, games, illustration, you name it. I've probably done it. So today we have a bunch of portfolios that were submitted through the Lightbox Expo Discord. Okay, so that's the place to really, if you're an artist, sign up, join up. It's free. It's very much for the community, and it's moderated and everything. So it's quite nice. It's a very nice environment. Okay, so a bunch of people submitted portfolios. Now let's just jump into it. Okay, you can ask questions. How can people ask questions, Patricia?
They can ask questions in the LBX live chat.
Perfect. So you could go to discord.gg/lightboxexpo, and that should also be in the description of today's video. Okay, and today's video, by the way, today's stream is not going to be rewatchable online. Okay, I'm going to actually give a unlisted link to the Discord team. So if you go through Lightbox Expo Discord, you can rewatch this, but it's not going to be public on my YouTube channel. That way we can talk a little bit more intimately, right? A little bit more open. All right, here we go. So which one should we start off with first? Let's go to the very bottom here. These I have not seen yet. I haven't seen any of these, okay? So this is the first one from Amy. Gotta say, Amy knows how to do things here. This is beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, hello, Amy. Yes.
Oh, hi. Hi.
Are you a fan of Westworld by any chance? Is that why?
I am a fan of Westworld, and I just like the actress and the 20s kind of aesthetic in general. So it all kind of came together in that one.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to try to make this as kind of universal for everybody. Okay. And so the very first thing, and probably the most common thing that people maybe don't get as right as they could, is what is your goal? You know, what would be that thing that you're really aiming for?
So right now I'm in the games industry. I'd like to make my way into film and TV eventually. So that's my main goal, amongst just generally improving.
It's perfect. So that's a really great subject, because it's like, what's the difference? What are people looking for in films and television rather than games? One of the biggest things that really kind of I clued into is with games, when you're designing the experience of the player, which is very different from the experience of a viewer. Right? And you know this, and I'm sure you know this, so I'm just kind of explaining to everybody else. So in other words, if you spent 40 hours to get these beautiful, very rare wings for your character, these wings would most likely not be designed like this, right? They would be designed like this, and they would go off the page because this little character is on a multiplayer kind of thing, and it's tiny on the screen. So you want to be able to see those beautiful wings that you took forever to get. With live action especially, you have to think about the functionality way more, because a person may have to wear this thing that you just made, right? And it's like, okay, well, how's the jacket going to work? How are the pants going to work? These are all things that I could see that Amy is very familiar with and has put in there very nicely. The necklace is the thing that kind of is like, okay, that looks odd, but I'm okay with it. It just looks like, because those if they're pearls, they're very large pearls. But overall, I like it. And the thing that I would say that could help this image is really more of the story. So whether it's some blurry stuff in the background, which could just be a photo, really,
Okay.
that could help. But I think the lighting in both of these could be more interesting.
Gotcha.
Right? Like, because now we're going to cinema. We're going into like cinematic kind of feel of things. So this is actually really great for just like a costume design. It's beautiful. This one feels like it's a creature design, but yeah, the things that I would kind of do differently, because I feel like Amy, your skills are, are obviously very professional, and at a certain level, you can't really do anything wrong. You could just do them differently. So how I would do them differently is the material of these guys, I feel like it could be a bit more interesting as well. I would have loved to see the gems being pushed a bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And then the ball stuff, I'm just not sure what kind of material that ball is, but I would love to think of a material that could be a bit more interesting. That's all.
Okay, yeah. So maybe like pulling up some probably better reference.
Yeah.
For the material when painting it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and the other thing that I kind of pick up on a little bit is the eyes. They kind of glow, right? And so if that's the case, then I would have just loved to see, oops, I'm not using my brush here. I would have just loved to see it have a bit more opportunity to really feel that glow.
Yeah, that actually that pushes it more.
Right, just a tiny bit. And when you start to do this, then it gives way for a really nice opportunity, because this character is backlit, and then it has these really thin membrane, skin membrane kind of things that become its wings. So, where I'm going with this. This is a really beautiful opportunity to create more like light coming through the material and lighting up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that improves it so much, I think.
It's fun, right? And even in real life, like when you see this in real life, you're just kind of drawn to it. It's like, wow, that thing's kind of just lighting up or whatever. So that's how I would kind of tackle this. I would try to just layer on, like your skills are already beautiful, and it's really just making it a bit more special, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And then as you start doing this, then you can start to think about, okay, well, actually, now we're messing with the exposure here, and I would love to probably heighten that rim light a touch. And then as you start to heighten that a touch, then you can also think about the lens that we're observing this world through, right? And perhaps it just feels like, because you have these little specks in the air, and the values also start to diminish as we go into the background, it feels like there's good opportunity for a little bit of just like this soft light that comes in kind of thing, not as not as much as that, but just something really light. So it just starts to create more of an atmosphere, right? And now when you're looking at it, just a simple couple marks there, right? But before and then after, you're starting to build a mood.
Yeah, that's a definite improvement. Thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. With everybody that I mentioned, I would also love to just kind of bring it back to schoolism, whether you want to do this or not. Perhaps there's other people with the same kind of things that they're interested in. And so if you wanted to take this further on schoolism, the Tonko House painting with light and color comes to mind.
Okay.
There's one assignment in there in particular where you have to, and I did the course too. I loved it. You take the same scene and you paint it into different moods, right? And I think that's where both of these, you didn't really have to think about that as much, I'm assuming, as with the work that you've done thus far in games.
Yeah, not so much thinking about that for sure. So I think that would be actually good practice.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much. And I'm going to go on to the other one, if that's all right.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks so much.
You're welcome, Amy. All right.
Next. Bobby.
Yes.
Sorry. Before we go, can we go to Chrystin Yu? It's the third one from the bottom.
I see it.
Yeah, because she needs to go, and then she's
okay.
Still here now.
Hi, Chrystin.
Yeah. Hi.
Nice to meet you, I guess. So what is your goal?
I want to be a character artist. I think now I'm leaning towards more TV, but
okay.
Being in film would also be pretty cool.
Great. Those are good goals. If you want to get even more specific, because I'm a fan of getting really, really specific. Mm-hmm. So I would say what studio, even what director, because it's just easier to target when you have something very, very specific. And even if you don't get that, you would get something else, most likely. Like for me, my very first target was Tim Burton until I got to work with him. And then I had another target of Steven Spielberg. And then a few years ago, I got to do that as well. It's not because, I feel like it's not because of anything except for the fact that was my specific goal, right? So anything that I do, I think about it and I'm like, okay, well, is this what Tim Burton would do? Most likely not. This isn't kind of like Tim Burton-esque kind of themes or designs, right? And that would help you to get to that place faster. But that being said, like you have some very beautiful designs here, and they do feel like they are for feature or television, streaming, that kind of thing. So now here's the thing that I would do first, right? When you have something like this, I'm going to actually, you know what I'm going to do here, I think. We're going to take a look at the silhouette, right? And see how well do we understand what's happening with the silhouette. Things, I feel like they get pretty lost, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the thing that I would love for you to kind of think about next time is, how readable is this if it was just a silhouette? And that's really because, especially in film and television, things stay on the screen for such a short amount of time. We have to make it really readable very, very quickly. So if it's like these two, for example, I probably would have just, pretty much, I want to try to stick to your idea as much as I can. But if I just kind of brought that hand out a bit, right? And then this fist, you're doing the right thing. But I just try to make everything just a bit more clear in terms of silhouette. I do like the variety of shapes that you're using, though. You have the very skinny person here, which is wonderful to see. And then you have a totally square, kind of heavy, compressed looking character there. And then we have this other character that looks like the main kind of character as well. So it's really nice. Now, after we take care of silhouettes, we still want to look at it and go, okay, how easily did we understand everything? I'm gonna look at this person now and just kind of point out something. When you have a shape, let me just do this. Okay, we have a shape here. Now, usually it's like if it's dark on one side, it's light on the other. Right? That's generally what's happening. But with this character here, there's a lot of things here where it's like one side is dark and the other side is dark. And that flattens things out very, very quickly. Right? And so what I'm talking about is, say, like this area here, which is you're going light, and then we're going dark, and then we go light, and then we go dark again. Which is it can be a little strange. Right? Same thing over here, actually, with these sleeves. They get dark and then dark. So how I would have done this is more like I would probably just shift the light over a tiny bit, right? And then have it more like, okay, she's slightly facing towards the light. Now, a course that I really recommend is Daniel Arriaga's course. He was the character art director for Coco for Pixar. And his paintovers and things, it's all about readability. And he's so darn good at just making things beautiful, but making them be able to read at the same time. Yeah, this part over here, I'm not sure if that's it gets slightly darker. I'm not sure if that's a shadow or if it was part of the clothing. You can see what's happening here as well. It's going dark, arm, and then dark again, which is, again, it's odd. Things can get darker, right? Like in this case, that should get darker because the form starts to turn away from the light a bit. And then this other shadow is the shadow from the arm onto the clothes. It's casting a shadow. Cast shadows are generally darker. They're generally darker than shadows being formed because the form is turning away from the light. So I make one darker, one lighter, and then it feels all right. It feels much better than if they both feel equal. Now that's a real like golden nugget piece of information there, because so many times before I knew that, I believe I learned this in Sam Nielsen's Fundamentals of Lighting course, where he breaks down exactly how lighting works on Schoolism. He talks about the cast shadow generally being darker than the shadow from the form turning away from the light. And with that little piece of information, that helped me so much, because there's so many times where it's like, yeah, I know there's a shadow there. I know over here there's a shadow, but which one should be darker? Which one should be lighter? It's so confusing. Okay, so anyways, that was such a minor little thing on the clothes, but you can see the readability, right?
Yeah.
It just makes it so much more readable, and it's such a very quick little tiny thing that we can do. Okay, so just check over your stuff and take a look at like the pants over here as well. You know, one side is darker, one side is lighter. Which side is lighter? Which side is darker? And then we'll start to build these three-dimensional feeling forms. Sound good, Chrystin?
All right. Yeah.
Great. Did you have any questions or anything?
I think I'm good. Thank you so much.
Okay,
for
you're
doing
welcome.
this.
Great job. Great job.
Thank you.
All right, Patricia, is there another one I should go to next?
Oh, you can go wherever.
Wherever? Okay,
Yeah.
great. Well, also, this is probably a good time to kind of mention that, like, each one of these courses, they are on Schoolism. And with a subscription, you get access to all the courses on Schoolism. Over 50 plus art courses that are designed with lessons. You know, it's not just a one-off kind of like, I hate to say gumroady, you know, but that's kind of like the term I think of. One-off things. These are courses that are meant to really help you evolve your art. Okay, so that being said, let's go on to this next person here. Is this person?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I kind of make it a habit to ask if I have any doubt. How do you pronounce your name?
Kate.
Oh, okay. Kate, I could do that. It said Kate Arena over here or something. So
Yeah, it's a full name, but you can call me Kate.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Wonderful. So, Kate, same question. What is your goal? What's your artistic goal here?
Like I want to be a character artist for games or animation. I'm not sure which one exactly. I would do both, actually.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, great. And we're going to start off with some kind of like basic but most important question, which is what are these two images supposed to make you feel? Right? And this might not be something that you consciously thought about. And if you didn't, that's fine. You just let me know. But say like this image to begin with, what are we supposed to feel emotionally here?
I guess like magic and some hope and lightness. I don't know. Like a bit of fun, mischievous, probably.
Awesome. Okay, so Kate, hope, I would probably say, and you'd probably say the same thing, the lighting, the situation here doesn't feel as hopeful. It may feel a little like whimsical, a little fantastical. It could feel a little bit scary, perhaps, you know, with the lighting and everything. And the other one with the head, the smoking head, same kind of thing. You know, I start to think, what am I supposed to be feeling here as a viewer? What am I supposed to be feeling here? Now, I was saying this is a very simple question, but here is why it's so important. Okay, so important.
She's gonna be like more mysterious and a bit dark character, like something in between, more of a gray character.
No, I totally get it. But what I would almost bet that that wasn't the initial thought in your mind going, okay, I'm going to want something hopeful over here. I'm going to want something, you know, whatever. And then over here, it's going to be mysterious. And a lot of times those are not the thoughts that go through our mind, but it should be. In my opinion, it very much should be. And the reason is because, Kate, what's one of your favorite movies? Doesn't have to be the best movie in the world, but your favorite movie.
I guess it's animations. Maybe Coco.
Anyway, Coco.
The one, yeah.
And Coco, did it make you feel anything? Did it make you, you know, weep a little bit and make you tear up a little bit and things like that? You know what was also a beautiful movie that made me feel nothing? I don't know. I don't remember it, but I definitely remember there are movies like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the thing that we gravitate towards as people, as just humans, is like when the art makes you feel something. Even if it's abstract art, many times it's like the person bought that because of how it made them feel. So down to the very, very core of it all, we're trying to make people feel things. So let that be our very first goal, right? That's the very first thing that we think about. Okay, we have this character assignment. Sure. How do I want the viewer to feel? And then after that, we take all of our technical skills, everything that we learned, and we push it towards having somebody feel that exact feeling that we're looking for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Right. So we go back to your stuff here. I would say, yeah, if I was, what were the feelings that you wanted here?
Mischievous, a bit hopeful, but more like, I don't know, like magically. The thing is that these characters are both from the same world, but the girl is more light and funny, and she's mischievous and hopeful to get a better life, I would say.
Okay. But the only thing is like, what emotions do you want the viewer to feel? Not, I want them to feel like that person is mischievous. I want to know things like, I want the person to feel awe-inspired by this magical, amazing thing that's happening before them. Or the clouds are rolling in and this giant spaceship is about to be seen. Those are kind of like beautiful, perfect kind of scenarios for awe-inspiring kind of feelings.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah, I haven't thought about it.
There's other feelings like humorous feelings, of course, angry, sad, all these things, right? And let's also talk just very slightly about viral images that you love and images that you share. You know, was it because it was funny? Was it because it was really cool feeling? These are all feelings that are very shareable. Happy, funny, cool, awe-inspiring is very close to cool, but I say it's slightly different because it feels more epic. I consider awe-inspiring stuff more epic. Those things all get shared a lot, and for the most part, you do want that. You want your stuff to be shared a lot, so that's how you can get it done. There's also angry. I don't like to do angry stuff. I don't like to do things that make people angry. But of course, things that anger people also spread very quickly on the internet. The one that doesn't is sadness. So if you're aiming to make people sad with whatever it is that you're painting, know that most likely it's not going to be very viral. If it's sad to the point where it makes somebody angry, though, right? Like an endangered seal, and it's the last one, and this poor seal. Versus this poor seal is also getting chased by a bunch of fishermen. That gets people, that just turns to anger now, and that could spread a little bit. So anyways, long story short, I think with yours, it's really very much about the initial idea of how do I want people to feel when they see my character awe-inspired, funny, sad, that kind of stuff. Okay, and then you build everything around that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Some portfolios, it's more like we need to talk about it verbally than a paint over.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Kate.
Yeah, thank you a lot.
You're welcome.
You. And Bobby, if we can go to the next one to Ava. She's the 6th from the bottom from Mackenzie.
Okay, Ava here. Hi, Ava.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, big fan. I love your stuff. Oh my goodness.
Thank you so much.
I remember that one that you drew with the creature for like a Lightbox Expo challenge, and it had some like hands or something that I was collecting.
Oh, George. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I got some great portfolio feedback on that one, and I actually adjusted it because of Jeremy's portfolio review.
So, same question as everybody else, Ava.
Yes. Okay. My goal as an artist is to make creatures for movies and one day have my own movie about my creatures. That's like the highest goal I have.
Love it.
Yeah, that's about it.
Well, that's definitely something I can help you with.
Thank you. That would be lovely.
Yeah. So the thing about your artwork, right, is that it feels illustrative. I hope that's okay to say because it's beautiful.
No. I thank you. Yeah, I feel like an illustrator as well. So
yes.
That's great.
So how do we get more into film is we add that layer of what's the lighting setup of this world? What's the camera that you're using to look at this world?
Yeah.
Are you looking at it through more of a wide lens, a narrow lens, a fisheye lens? It's like then you're thinking about it in terms of film.
Exactly.
Yeah, in illustration, there's a lot of things where you can push and pull them and kind of bend rules to suit your purposes, right?
Yes.
In a lot of like live action and animated, because a lot of animated stuff nowadays, it can look like they're little dolls walking around. So
stop motion.
Yeah, it also follows. Yeah, I love that stuff too. It really does follow that.
Oh.
What's that?
Leica Studios is my favorite studio.
Oh, awesome. Kubo and the Two Strings.
Yes.
Coraline,
of course. And there's a new movie coming as well, I heard. Very excited about that one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm going to do with yours. I'm just going to drop in a few little shadows here and there. And then I'm going to erase back out the light a little bit. I'm going to leave some areas with light because I know that that's going to be heavily in light. But this is where we bring our technical skills in here and we start looking at everything and going, how would this work in real life? How would this work in real life?
Exactly.
Right. So this is a cast shadow. I was mentioning earlier, cast shadows are darker than other shadows. And this is, I'm assuming, because of the overall kind of feel here, that this would be a soft lighting setup.
Right?
Yes. Because it's like this magical kind of thing that's happening.
Spring-like feeling I wanted to convey. A bit like Easter.
Yeah. And I'm also thinking that the background is getting too close. Like if we want to stage this well, the background needs more darker values.
Yes.
Yeah, this will be a good paint over, I think, because you've already taken your work so far. So there's actually a lot of good things that we can talk about here.
Yeah, I'm learning a lot. Also from the other portfolio reviews as well.
Oh, great. All right. So, oops. I don't want that. Now, here's something else that everybody can kind of find helpful, I think. So there's lots of situations in the past where I felt like I was finished the painting, but I didn't like it. And I wanted to do changes. But it was hard to do those changes on a already kind of finished painting. It's hard for the subtle stuff to kind of pop out. Or it's hard for me to do subtle changes because the painting already has so much contrast. So in those kind of situations, this is exactly what I do. I take a neutral tone. I just push everything back so I could still see exactly what Eva has done, before I got on there. But at the same time, the new kind of stuff that I'll paint on here, they'll pop out so much more because I pushed everything back, right? And if I only just did the adjustments, the little painting adjustments without pushing everything back, those subtle painting adjustments wouldn't really be noticed very well because there's already so much contrast.
Oh, so you can now see like the little fluff on the belly a lot better.
Yeah, and I haven't even really started painting the things that I want to paint on here. So when I do, you'll be able to see those a lot better as well. Okay.
By the way, Bobby, we have some questions actually from people, but I don't know if you want to answer them or...
Yeah, drop them in, or feel free to ask them.
So Black Ron is asking, when you're applying for gigs like illustration, game art, concept art, what would be best to showcase pieces like story art or concept art in different moods and lighting scenarios within your portfolio, or is that too much?
I think it depends on what kind of job at that studio, if it's project specific or if it's more like you want to work full time on there and whatever it is that they end up doing. I feel like that's a difference worth mentioning, because generally I don't really have that much interest in working like full time at a studio because I have my own studio. So I'm always very project specific. And if I am project specific, then I don't have to give as much variety. I'm trying to go for them looking at the portfolio and getting this experience where they're like, this person was born for this project. This is all they care about. When it's like that, I would rather hire somebody that is diehard about these kind of creatures that I'm painting on than hiring a person that could paint these kind of creatures but also likes spaceships, also likes sports cars and whatever else. But yeah, if you are going for full-time, like a more permanent kind of position, then I'm probably not the best person to answer that, really. But like my logic says, yeah, you would want to show a variety then. But also know that that doesn't mean 20 pieces of art. That would still mean like 10 pieces of art for me at the most.
Yeah, I believe the question is more about like if you want to tell a story within an illustration, with like different lighting or mood settings. But with visual development, I don't know how that works. Maybe it's a good question to go over the 90 Mac with Kay as well.
Oh yeah. Also, by the way, everybody, this was it. Not this week, not next week. I think the week after, the webinar with Don Yamazi and Deb Stone. They're both recruiters from Illumination.
Oh yeah.
They're beyond. You know, Deb Stone is the director for talent recruitment at Illumination, and then Don is the VP. And so they're going to be doing a exclusive Schoolism webinar. I think on the 22nd or something like that. It's free for Schoolism subscribers. So when you subscribe to Schoolism, not only do you get access to all the courses, but you also get free webinars that are included, that are exclusive for you guys and for me. I like to watch them too. But yeah, so I would highly recommend carving out some time, attending that. Then you could ask your questions live to like actual recruiters, and perhaps even get them to look at your portfolio. I think they are going to also, they're going to plan on bringing, they're planning on bringing example portfolios as well. And a lot of times you just need to know what are they looking for, and then I'll do that, and then you get in. Okay, so Eva, you can see where I'm going with this, but sometimes it happens so gradually that we don't notice.
Yes.
Right? So
I'm gonna screenshot this. Yes.
Yeah, just bring the structure into more of a realistic kind of lighting scenario. I could paint on your stuff all day. It's so much fun.
You have my permission to do so.
Thank you.
If you have extra time. No, thank you so much. I think I'm gonna take a course in lighting. At Schoolism.
Yeah.
I think that will help maybe a lot.
That's the thing, because your drawing, your painting is already just fantastic. Not even like professional level. I would say it's fantastic. It's super memorable.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and it gives you the feels in the right way, like I was saying before, the emotional impact. It's wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it.
All right. Any other next ones? Oh, that looks kind of neat.
Yeah. I just want to mention, if you want to see Don Yamhazi and Deb Stone, it's on July the 22nd. Or 22nd. Is that 22nd?
Yes.
Okay. And you can go whenever, Bobby.
Okay, freestyle.
Look for a good one. Freestyle.
Okay, I'm going to go to this one here. Mackenzie. Lovely. Is Mackenzie here?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Wow. That's fantastic. So what's your goal, Mackenzie? What's your artistic goal?
Ideally, I would like to do visual development for TV or film. I've also been applying for like background painting and prop design, though. Yeah, for like my entry level.
Awesome. This is looking really, really nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would say if it's visual development, this is a bit of a specific style, in my opinion. There's lots of beautiful kind of shows and such that have this kind of a style, but if I wanted to up my chances, then it's really in the material indication here, because it's like, what's the difference between how you're painting the clothes as opposed to how you're painting the fur? Is it that much different? What about those leather? It feels like the little one has these leather kind of glove kind of things with these holes for the fingers or something. We want that to be of a different kind of material as well.
Right.
But that being said, before I start painting on this, I do feel like this is a very complete thought, and it's very nicely done. And I don't feel like you need to change anything here. That it could just be like this.
Oh, wow. Okay? Thank you.
Yeah. The only thing is if I was doing a film that was like The Sea Beast that just came out, or like a feature Disney movie or something, their material indication is very high, especially like a Disney or Pixar.
Yeah.
Right, because their rendering is like nuts. So
yeah,
if that's the case, I would think about the textural stuff here. And by the way, for everybody, there's an actual course on Schoolism all about textures with Jonathan Hardesty. The really cool thing about that course is his way of breaking down textures. You know, once you're able to really analyze properly, then you're like way closer to being able to create things that are far more kind of complex, challenging, things like that.
Right.
So one of the things that he mentions is the silhouette of a texture. You know, we all think about, okay, yeah, texture. How shiny is the thing? That one's low-hanging fruit. Not as many of us think about the actual silhouette of it. And if this was a hood, and if this was a more realistic hood, then I would probably just shave off a bit of those edges, right? Just making it a little bit more of a softer material.
Yeah.
The other thing is, like I was mentioning, the silhouette, right? So Jonathan was talking about the silhouette. Super simple things, right? And just thinking about, okay, well, do I want this silhouette clean? Do I want it really textural, like what I'm doing here with some loose kind of strands of its costume, because I don't know, it made its costume itself and stuff like that. Then there's the leather. So if these are leather, then it's like, okay, well, leather, there's many different kinds of leather. And one of the things that Jonathan mentions as well in his course is age, right? So if this was new leather, well, then most of us perhaps would know how to paint that, right? You're thinking about just really the highlights here. Where are things going to reflect into our eyes from that position? But if we're thinking about aging as well, then we have to think about, okay, well, what happened to this texture? It's no longer as shiny. And then we got to kind of adjust for that as well. Yeah, and those were things that I never, like, I can paint texture, but once I started thinking like that, I was able to just be so much more complex, I guess, with my textures. Not saying like it was harder to kind of understand, but, you know, just way more thought.
But, right, it's more specific.
Yeah, you know, just a little bit like this, right? Just on the glove there, all of a sudden it feels like we're starting to create a bit more of a story with this person, right? Like there's some age here and maybe more age on this glove here, perhaps. How shiny would this thing be, right? Would it have perhaps some kind of like it got busted up before or something like that?
Yeah.
Right? So it could have like a little bit of patchwork happening. And then we start building a story, you know? The other thing I would mention is the eye area here. Especially if it's like, I want to say especially for feature, but I don't know. I feel like it is. Like, it's a little too simple. Because we need to understand, well, okay, how does this eye actually work? There's folds and things. There's things that are happening for it to be able to make that expression with the eyes. Right? If it's super clean, then how does it make other expressions? You see where I'm going?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, just these slight touches. Now, the thing about slight touches, though, is like believability comes in subtleties, not in big, bold statements.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very interesting kind of statement there. I'm saying it's interesting not because I just said it, but because Jason Seiler said that to me many years ago. And he does these very realistic portraits for like cover of Time magazine, Rolling Stone. He also does very rendered characters. And then I thought about what he said and, applying it to even like a very, very unbelievable character like this, a mouse with a bow and arrow. You start thinking about subtleties and subtleties and subtleties, not just in the paint, but also in the pose, not just doing a stiff handshake, but maybe breaking up those fingers, things like that. All those things is what will create the believability. So there you go. Okay, just a little bit of work on here, but I think enough for you to be able to take it further and kind of question everything else in here.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Again,
awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Wonderful job.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Anybody else? Or
you go.
Okay. Great. Let's go to Charlie here. Do you have Charlie online?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Charlie.
Hi,
nice to meet
thank you for selecting my portfolio.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Really cool stuff. Okay, so we were just talking about subtleties. And I'm sure this is something that so many people will be able to relate to. I definitely have related to this so many times. You draw a room and you're like, this room looks so boring or so plain. Or you draw a robot and you have really beautiful shapes, but you're just not sure what else to add there. You know what I mean? So if you don't know, that's totally fine too. Let's start adding stuff. So as I'm looking at this, and actually as I'm looking at this, maybe you could tell us what your artistic goal is.
I want to be a concept artist for like a video game company, maybe something indie. And what I have here is like a character lineup for a proposed video game.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So everything seems to line up with your goals. And what I'm doing right here is I'm just going through each little section, and I want to just try to make it a bit more special. Right? So how are these little pieces constructed? Are they kind of put together with a bolt gun? Is it evenly put together? So all these bolts need to be evenly spaced apart and stuff like that. Maybe there's bolts on the other side. Is this thing a new thing or an old thing? Because if it's new, then we could add a lot more kind of shininess to it, a lot more interesting kind of stuff to it. Perhaps we could even take a little bit of this character here and let me put this on a new layer. I'm gonna just try and do kind of like a mirror image Of course, in Photoshop, we have way more options for things that would be more suited to this. But I'm just going to do my best here and do a little version here. Okay. Right, so this character, maybe it's a really new robot. So you can see a bit of a, I'm going to turn down the opacity later, but you can see a bit of the reflection of the hero on the robot's chest, perhaps. You know, just trying to give more ideas of how to add more to this robot, how to add more subtleties, and so we can bring this robot into a bit more of a believable state. You know, this might be overkill to have such a complex kind of reflection in there. But you know, it's like you add a bit of this in there, and then you add some texture over top of it. So this texture, I would assume, oh, let me grab my brush. This texture, I would assume that it would be more shiny, you know, more kind of like this new shiny thing. It could be old, and that would change everything. You know, you start thinking about rust and things like that. But just having that thought in your head is already going to help a lot. Right? And then these highlights, if they look strange, keep putting them in. Put them in everywhere where they should be. And if they're in the right place, they'll start to look less and less strange when you start adding them all in. Because it's really the effect of all of the highlights kind of working together to say the same thing about where the light is coming from that gives you that effect. Okay. For some reason, I'm sure for lots of reasons actually, Airi Pan's course comes to mind on Schoolism. Her course is called Foolproof Concept Art or something like that. Foolproof something with concept art. Oh my goodness. I watched her course. There's few artists that can, you know, do things well. And then there's fewer artists that can explain things well. And then there's just a tiny fraction that can do all of that, plus do it in an entertaining way. And that's Airi Pan's course. If anybody's taken it, you know, let me know in the comments or whatnot. Let everybody else know how that course is, because I do know what it's like. I thought it was fantastic. And Airi Pan also works as a senior concept artist for games. So right up your alley, Charlie.
Certainly.
Okay, so I just did a little section there, but you could kind of see what I'm going for, right? Like if we take a look at before and take a look at after, it's starting to create another level of kind of, I don't know, believability. You know, it's starting to give a lot more information about the materials there as well. Okay, the other thing I want to point out here is these joint areas. That joint is not going to work because it doesn't explain how those things, how these two parts will move around with this kind of a joint. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
And I think that's pretty much it. This is the other thing that I would change. Like personally, I would change that because it's dead on. And it's kind of odd when it's just so dead on like that. And nothing else in the image is dead on. Right? So I would probably have a slightly more of a down shot, right? And you could just see a slight bit of that top. But it's totally up to you. And I'm saying down shot because if it's an upshot, I would do an upshot if underneath was what's more important, right? Then okay, it doesn't matter what's on the top here. Underneath is what's more important. That's why I'm giving you an upshot. So I'm saying a slight downshot because I feel like the top of this thing is actually more important.
Okay, yeah.
All right, sound good? So thank you so much for your portfolio. Yeah, great work, great characters, really fun.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, so I'll just go on to the next one, Patricia. Right? Okay, I'm just going to go on to the next one. Next one's with Luna. Wow. Is Luna here?
Oh.
Hello, Luna.
Here.
Gorgeous.
Thanks
really,
so much.
really cool. And what is your goal? What is your artistic goal there?
I think I would really like to be either like a environment designer or a color key artist. I really like both of these, like those skills, I guess.
Okay, great.
Feature or TV, I think.
Okay, great. That's really good information. And the other thing I want to, like hearing that, I want to stress to you, Luna, that it doesn't matter if you want to go for being like a colorist first, a color key person first, or environment person first. It doesn't matter. I'm saying this because in the beginning, I learned everything. I learned storyboarding, layout, all this stuff. And I was interested in many of them, not just character design or creature design. And then I felt like, well, I don't want to choose, you know, like I still like those other things. But when I tried to go for everything, my career went nowhere. When I got to a point where I was like, you know what? It's not choosing something forever. It's just choosing something for right now. And that's the first thing that I will make sure that I have a little bit of success with. I'll keep working at it until I have a bit of that success. And so I would just aim towards that until, okay, now I can get environment design jobs. Okay, great. Now, do I still want to do that? Or do I want to shift gears and expand and try to also do color keys? I think that's, personally, that's my approach. And I feel like that is the best approach because when you're just concentrating on one thing, you get way better at that one thing way quicker. And then you switch to the next thing if you want. Okay, so going to these, the environment stuff first, I think with this tree one, I think I would just, like if I was you, I would love to have spent just a little bit of time to look up different kinds of interesting trees, because this is not the typical tree here. This looks like a tree of importance, right? So you would start off by looking at different kinds of trees, different kinds of bark, different kinds of, you know, that hopefully finding an interesting texture that mixes well with the concept that you're going for. Then looking into different kinds of leaves as well, right? Because there's so many different kinds of leaves, the size of leaves and things like that, that can make things more interesting again. The rocks, the plants that grow on the trees. It's so cool. One time I think this was like in Brazil, I was looking at this tree. I was with Nathan Fowkes, by the way. This isn't part of the story, but a little side story was like I was with the master Nathan Fowkes in this jungle thing, and I look at the tree, I go, wow, pretty flower, right? He looks at the tree and goes, oh, that's a such and such tree, and then this thing is growing on top of it, and then that thing allows this other thing to grow on top of that. And you see, that flower is actually a plant that is growing off of this plant, which is growing off of that plant, which is growing off of the tree. And I was like, that's why you do environments. You know, and that's the kind of headspace that you want to get into too. Like, it's not just a tree, it's not just a rock. What kind of rock is it? What kind of tree is it? And get into those things. And then interiors as well. Like, there's some beautiful work here, but I could see that the design, the style of the room, the architecture and such could have more research into it to really kind of flesh out some good, interesting ideas here. It's like I can sense a kind of like a time period for this, right? But what is the thing that truly makes this room interesting? I feel like it's all these lamps on the top there. But that's not the thing that really shouts out at me first, right? I don't know if that's a major part of this room design, but that's the thing that I'm getting from it. If I looked at the entire thing, that's the thing that's kind of like the most interesting to me, and I would have leaned into that more and made the piece more about those lamps. Perhaps light up the room all colorful, like, because of those lamps.
Yeah, I think those lamps were there because I wanted to play with the light, but first I want to figure out like what's the local color of everything. So I like painted it in like overcast light, so I could figure out what's the local color, and then try a painting that I'm working on right now with playful lighting. Yeah.
John Burton. The class that comes to mind on Schoolism is John Burton's class, Environment Design. He teaches it in such a beautiful way. Nathan Fowkes as well, of course. Even Airi Pan, I would go back to Airi Pan's course as well. But John's comes to mind simply like when I look at this tree, I think about one of his first lessons where he relates composition, he relates the trees to music and everything, and the gestural feel of it and everything, and how smooth of a ride does it give you? Is that the kind of ride that you want the viewer to have, looking at your stuff? But anyways, let's move on to the other stuff on the right-hand side. So these are more like color keys, right? So with this, I would say that we need to fill up our mental library with different situations of light, so that we're gonna be able to make something that's gonna have more interest. It's gonna pique more interest. Currently, it feels like you're on the right path, though. 100% you are on the right path. Okay, just the things that would help you more with these is really like different lighting scenarios. So when I think about this one, I'm thinking like automatically I start thinking about what kind of space stuff have I seen? But as well, I start thinking about what other stuff that I've seen that would work well with the space theme. And that's actually something that right there is actually a big thing that people can really think about and dive into, because you can relate it back to something like this as well. Like we're talking about leaves. Well, we don't have to think about what kinds of different leaves are there out there. We can think beyond that and think what kind of things that are out there that could relate to leaves. Right? Because a lot of times when you do that kind of stuff, you're bringing out something completely new, yet not so new, not so alien-like that nobody understands it and they can't connect with it. It has to be a good balance between new, yet the feeling of familiarity. Right? If nothing is familiar on an alien, nobody's going to be scared of it, even if you're supposed to be scared of it. It's just going to be too weird to understand it. Right? But people understand teeth. People understand fluid that comes out of the body or something like that. Like people are like, oh my gosh, that thing has blue blood or something. This one here is one that I feel like the initial composition probably hurt it a little bit. It's very even, right? And then you have this stuff here that's not even, which is it's just a little bit odd to me. If we're going with the more even kind of thing, then what I would probably do is I would bring this guy more even as well, right? And make it's all about evenness kind of thing. So grab that, and then I do this, do these chunks here. Right? It's like, holy smokes, there's that thing in the air. And then here, I'm just going to make it a bit more like kind of a bit more dramatic. Shadow. And then we have this thing. Also, I would probably make all this a bit darker. I'm thinking about the camera lens. What kind of camera setup is going to have tones like this? It's probably going to be a bit more like this, because the other one is a bit too even, and even, normal, those kind of words usually lead you to boring, right?
Yeah. I think that one, like moving the main character, feels much better. Just a little bit.
Awesome. Well, also, I would probably move, I'd probably move this as well. This thing in the middle. And then, I would probably make it overlap my character a little bit, so it feels just slightly more epic. Okay, I'll just paint that character back in.
A bit more depth, right?
Yeah, it just gives it a bit more depth, gives it a bit more. Then you have this really nice kind of dark values here. That's also a nice contrast to the lighter values over there. Right, and then within these dark values, then you can even add in a little bit and add in some subtle details where if the viewer was to look closer, then they would see that gun in the silhouette, or, you know, see that, not a gun on this guy. This guy's a rock guy, but more info, right? I love adding in kind of like Easter egg information that rewards the viewer if they're to look at this thing longer. right, so hope that helps. And why don't we move on? I'll just keep moving if that's okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Why don't we go on to the next one here? So I'll move on to this one. Very cool. And is this person here?
Bobby, yeah, I'm here.
Hi. What's your name? I don't want to mess it up.
Jahida.
Jahida. Love it. Okay, cool. And what's your artistic goal here?
Well, my goal is to hopefully get into visual development with an emphasis on background design.
Okay, perfect. I love how clear your goal is. That's wonderful. And you can tell from this as well, like, yeah, that's your goal. So everything matches. All right. So I feel like you're definitely a person that knew how to draw far before you were painting, or
yes,
right? Like,
you're very correct on that.
Because it's very driven by lines here. The tones are the thing that I feel can be pushed like way more. That's the thing that I think will take your stuff to that next level. Because your designs are very interesting. Your ideas are very interesting. It's your painting, like in terms of lighting especially, and textural indications. So let's see here. What's the mood for this, I wonder? You know, because I'm saying this because we have this intense light coming in from a window that's off screen, and then the bed is in shadow, right? And it's like, that's an interesting setup. Like if it was some sort of cheesy romantic night out kind of thing, and you know, the couple gets the suite or something, then I could see this stuff working where there's light in the foreground, and then it gets darker over there. And then when it gets darker over there, it's like let me see here. It leaves opportunity to show cheesy kind of lights in there, some romantic kind of like pink lights and things like that from the ceiling, who knows, right? Like this heart right there, that could be fun too, right? Where it's like maybe this heart is a light, and then you have these different, I don't know, it's just I'm still thinking about what the actual mood is for this this painting here. Did you have one in mind, or maybe that's actually the thing that you can think about?
Yeah, maybe I could think more about mood. When I was doing this, it was meant just kind of as an establishing shot, just to kind of get a concept of what I was thinking of in terms of the overall design and the props. But I think, yeah, you're right. I could definitely push the mood.
You know, this is probably a great kind of time to talk about directors as well, because not all directors are artists. And even if they are artists, they may not understand your sketches, right? So it's always been very important for me to think about those initial sketches as well, and getting across all the most important information in those sketches. Like if I put color, I have to put in the most important thing about color. If I put in lighting, I need to put in the most important things about lighting, because otherwise they won't get it. They'll think that I'm just doing some normal lighting. And with this, even though it's an establishing shot, environments, this same environment could be painted so that it's scary. You could have it so it's romantic, you know, the same environment. So to get it across the finish line and get it approved, I do feel like I know, I'm sure there's ways where like you don't have to do this, but I feel like it really helps. It helps me anyways when I set the mood, right? So I don't put the character in just like a neutral kind of lighting setup. This isn't a neutral lighting setup. It's just it's a bit of an odd lighting setup. It's kind of like the day after you party too hard, you know, with your significant other, messed up the whole place, and now there's light coming in through the room. Not that this place is messed up. I feel like there's a couple of things on the ground, but yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think just the last thing on here is when we think about the lighting setup, then we want to just think about like, okay, if I was colorblind, how many values am I seeing? And is it understandable? Is it as clear as I want it to be? Because right now, it's really like the colors and the lines that help me to understand the space.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So in a sense, pushing the values more.
Yeah, but it's really like I would push these values, but the thing is, we have to first have an idea of the lighting. You know, how do we want this to actually be lit that we feel is logical, but is also a good idea? It can't just make sense. Because as concept artists or as visual development artists, yeah, we're getting paid for our technical skills, but we're really getting paid for our ideas. And being able to translate somebody else's idea into a visual sense. And directors, for the most part, I'm being very general, but for the most part, I feel like they talk with emotions, right? Like one of my first projects many years ago, in the very beginning, was a project with Tom Hanks that never came out. But that was such a good learning experience for me because of the notes that I was given, right? Like, I got these notes, and I was like, TH says this, TH says that. And these notes were like, TH says that he really loves the eyes of like Al Pacino, right? And it gave me a picture of Al Pacino, a young Al Pacino, and goes, he loves the intensity of these eyes, but don't make the character have eyes that look like Al Pacino. And it's like, he really loves the feeling of this hair, this character, but he doesn't want the hair to look like that. And it's all these things where it's like talking about feeling, emotion. And that's how it was described. And for us, we need to take that and give a visual representation of that. And that's why with so many of these, I start off with, what's the emotion here? What are we trying to feel here? Because in the end, the storyteller, the director, they just want the viewer to feel what they want them to feel. How it looks and everything is almost secondary. Does that make sense?
Yes, I see what you mean.
Some really, high level kind of things to think about, but they will be very important. As I start doing this, as I start getting rid of the bright light coming in through the window, this is when we could start to really think about, okay, now that stuff, the distractions are gone, what do I want this lighting setup to be? All right. It's a wonderful job, though. Very, very cool.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the feedback.
You're welcome. All right. Why don't we move on to as many more of these as possible. Let's go on to, is there any, we're good, Patricia? I'm assuming. We'll go on to this one. Stephanie. Stephanie here?
Hi. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi.
Yes. Wonderful. So 2 very different pieces. This is very cool. So what is your artistic goal here?
So my goal is so I'm very interested in illustration, even for children's books or character design and animation.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. This one looks more like a study.
Yeah, this one was it was a study, kind of just, I was trying color and light a little bit and texture.
It's very cool. I would still use it, you know, like if you wanted to use it, I am thinking, you just give it a little cartoony head. And then you could think about what other things may you want to change here. And then you could change those, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good idea. I haven't thought of that.
You learn all sorts of little tricks when you're in the space for a while. Yeah, and then these guys, they could just be a little cartoony as well. It's rounding things off and things like that. Stylizing. Let's talk about this one here, because I feel like we can really do a bunch of stuff here. So first, the overall mood. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So this one was for a challenge that was happening on Instagram, where we were designing a apprentice from based on a prompt. So I took it a little further, and I wanted the mood to be sort of like magical and overall warm. I was thinking end of the day, maybe this character is practicing her magic or has been practicing her magic throughout the day. But I was thinking like end of day, warm, and late summer.
Okay. And it's about that, the girl is the apprentice, or is it the little friend on the ground?
Yeah, it's the girl, and then her the little possum, I was thinking would be her familiar or like companion, animal companion.
Okay, cool. And she's making a potion.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And that cauldron is hot?
That's something I haven't thought about, actually. It could be. I guess so, yeah, since it's bubbling and boiling.
Okay. Yeah, because if it's hot, then we might want to rethink our positioning of the different stuff there. Unless the possum really likes like warm, like really hot stuff and, you know, can handle that. Okay, so after kind of hearing all that, do you remember why we have this warm light coming in? What was the point of that?
Honestly, I think I just placed it there without even like thinking about it.
That's okay. You know, like, I'm sure like 10,000 people at the same time, they're all nodding their heads going, yep, I understand that. I've been there before. One thing about concept artists, visual development artists, things like that, even storyboarders and all sorts of stuff, a lot of times those people are good because they think up really good excuses to have something lit a certain way. And that's like half the battle. So, okay, let's start painting on this a little bit. First thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get rid of that light because it's so intense. It's so strong. It's just a little bit distracting for me. So I might bring it back in. But just doing this helps me to just have a clear head as I'm rethinking and kind of seeing what do we want to do here. And by the way, everybody that's listening in, I've been mentioning that we're doing this. I'm doing this because the Schoolism summer sale is almost over. There's actually less than a day left. And all of the courses that I've been mentioning, with the Schoolism subscription, you get access to all those courses. It's over 50 courses, weekly webinars, and what else do you get? That's already a bunch. But let me just touch up this area here. Okay, that's looking a little more neutral. And all of these things, I was just going to say, there is a sale right now. So you can get a year subscription for over 30% off, which is one heck of a deal, I gotta say. Let me just readjust my canvas here. It got shifted around a tiny bit. Okay. Oops. All right, awesome. Okay, almost done here. I'm just gonna get this hat. Get this part of the hat. Okay, create a nice little more neutral kind of thing here. I'm actually gonna, just to help me think a bit, I'm gonna just tone down this stuff in the back here as well. There. Now when I put in a light tone, we will all notice it, and it'll just be so much easier to kind of create a nice lighting scheme. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can bring back in the light. Now we have the cauldron. That might produce light. Is her hand also kind of producing some light?
It's not supposed to be. I think it just looks that way because when I was working on this, I just had the light hitting the leaves, like the ivy behind her hand. And
oh, okay.
So I think that's just my value breaking up.
No problem. Let me get rid of that area a little bit too for now, so we can understand everything a bit more. I would probably make this table just slightly darker so I don't confuse it with the hand. Okay, and then finally...
Bobby, we do have another question if you ask.
Yes, please.
From Ahmed, how do we actually choose our aesthetic goal in concept art, illustration, animation, especially for beginners, wherever to go?
Yeah, I can relate to that. I didn't know what I want to do for the longest time. One way is you could write down all the things that you don't want to do, and then afterwards you write the exact opposite on the other side and see what it kind of spells out for you. What kind of job, could this be? I've done that before. But with your situation, when I was in it, I thought to myself, first, whatever I decide is not the final thing. I want to do layouts at first. I got to the point where I could get a crappy job doing layouts, and I was doing layouts for this Warner Brothers kids show called Rescue Heroes. Not sure if anybody's seen that before, but I did a bunch of the layouts back in the day. And then when I got to that point, when I could get a crappy job, then I decide whether I want to keep pursuing that thing or do I want to try something else. And so that's what I would really, really recommend for everybody, that you pick something, stick to it until you have enough skill to have added value. And then you decide, do I want to keep pursuing this? Do I want to get better at this? Or do I want to move on to something else? Okay, so now that we've covered that, I feel like this thing here, because it's on the grass, we're just going to assume there's no fire making this thing boil. Maybe it's the stuff inside that's making it boil. So to further explain that, what I want to do here is I just want to add in values that are unnatural, right? So it feels like that's coming from the stuff that's inside. It's kind of magical. And then if I have that, then I have the excuse of doing these upshot lighting scenarios where maybe I would use some of that blue. Oops. And start to bring it in here. And start putting it everywhere where it should be affected. Oops. Okay. Oh, yeah, there's nothing in the hand, so we can light up the bottom of his hand here. Now, you may want to have that other light come in, the warm light from up above. But if it's two lighting scenarios or two light sources, it's very important to pick which one is the strong one. Okay, which one is the stronger one?
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
I'm thinking that this is the stronger one. And if this is the stronger one and there's still light coming from up above, then we need to address that. I would probably push all that stuff into the background. So this kind of a light, I would do it more in the background where there's pieces of it just popping in, perhaps. Now that's because I'm saying that the cauldron has light coming from it. So we have to set this up in a way where we could still do that. But having these lights over there helps to give an excuse for perhaps a little bit of rim light on the hat here. Right, which maybe like this. Just a tiny bit of light coming in there. And then everything else, I'm like thinking it's actually too currently it's still too bright, because this is not going to be like, it's hard to make that really, really powerful and believable at the same time, like really strong light at the same time. So I'm very inclined to just kind of darken a lot of, change the exposure. So you have this, more of this kind of a thing. And then we can lighten up all this stuff in the back, I'm thinking. To help strengthen her silhouette. It's a tough one. You know, it's like when you put fire in the daytime, that's generally tough without smoke. Like if you have somebody lighting a cigarette, a lot of times you don't even see that flame in real life. So I think the situation made it far more challenging. But if it was this situation, which I'm the one that kind of said, okay, cauldron needs to be glowing or whatever. So maybe you didn't have the same kind of idea there. And then your idea would have worked much better. I don't know. But
I am liking this a lot more though, because especially that back area of the trees, I was struggling with the light and shadow, and this feels more organized.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So I'm really liking this, and it's already giving me ideas of how I can, change it up a lot.
That's awesome. You know what? With my, and this is really for everybody, for my digital painting class, hopefully I'll open up another one, perhaps the beginning of next year. But with my digital painting class, we actually meet on Magma and we paint together. So you would be on the same thing with me, and then I would be like, try this, try that. Okay, I'm going to do it for you. Okay, now I'm going to delete my layer, and now you do it. And then I watch, and that's been incredibly helpful because I'm able to see things and tell the students things that I never could have did before. I would tell the artists like, oh, you're painting too fast. Right, which I never would have been able to see before, but I could see them paint. Or you're painting too slow. You need to stop worrying so much, and like this. And I could scribble down and show them the speed at which I'm thinking about. Right, you got to go like this, and don't worry so much, or whatever, and then have them do it. It's amazing how much improvement people will get. All right, so thank you so much for your portfolio there, Stephanie, and we'll move on to the next one.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions that you want to address, Patricia, as well? Just let me know. Otherwise, we're going to Ursula. Ursula, are you there? Okay.
No Ursula?
No Ursula. It's all right. Nice work, Ursula. All right, next one. Iris. Is Iris here?
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Very cool. So what is your artistic goal?
Well, I would like to be a freelance illustrator, although my long-term goal will be to be a freelance visual development artist for visual development, for animated movies and board game projects that are related with fantasy and animals. So, yeah.
Okay, great. That's lovely work here. To me, when I look at the work, I feel like this person wants to do perhaps illustrative books, but more towards illustration than visual development. And the reason is because when you're doing visual development, you're kind of like setting with the paintings that you do and how you paint them, you're kind of saying what the rules are of this world, right? And when that's the case, then technical skills need to be there. It becomes a prerequisite because you're essentially creating the plans for everybody else down the road. Here's what the character looks like. Here's what the creature looks like. Here's what it looks like when it's happy, sad, when it's doing this, when it's doing that. And then everybody down the road goes, okay, that's exactly how it is. And whenever the hair is like this, then Iris says that we need to have a dark line at the bottom. You know, those kind of things, right? It gets very picky. And people will go, what is the intent of what you drew here, what you drew there, what you drew there? All those things. So you can definitely do that. And I feel like, you know, really anybody, if I could do it, anybody could do it, to tell you the truth.
I think also a children's book illustration.
Yeah, and this feels more towards children's book illustrations because there's a really light, wonderful feel to this, right? A really kind of like if I was a child and I had a book like this, I'd probably be happy. I could see some creatures. It has this playfulness to it, and it has this nice textural feel to it as well. Yeah, so talking about the actual paintings now. Consistency. That's the first thing that's the first kind of direction I'm going to go here. I feel like the consistency is a little bit lacking, you know, and overall, I love the colors that you used here. It's really nice. But what I'm saying is when you look at the eyes, for example, of the puffer fish and this sea creature and the octopus and stuff, and then you look at her eyes feel far cleaner than these other ones, right? And so there's just less consistency there. I would have loved to see the same kind of, you know, looseness over here in her eyes, or to have everything cleaner like her eyes. This one over here on this other side, you can see that there's this tone. It's kind of a dark-ish tone, right? And if I drop it and expand it so we can take a closer look at it, it's around that tone. You know, it could be darker. There's some little bits in there that get this dark as well. So there's this value that lives in your universe. Okay, then if a value gets that dark, it's possible, and actually it's more than possible, it is getting that dark in this space. Going by that rule now, how dark should this thing get? In the hermit crab, right? The shadows of the hermit crab, are they dark enough? I would say probably not. Probably this would be the darkness, right? When you're looking at the darkness over here, okay, yeah, it probably needs to be that kind of darkness for it to match this stuff here. And then the plants, same thing. It's not like the plants and everything need to be the same kind of darkness. It just needs to feel like they belong in the same universe and that they could live together, right? It makes sense that this thing is right beside the other thing. Does that make sense? You still there, Iris? Maybe my own. Let me check my audio here. Audio. Oh, okay, you can hear me now.
Bobby's back. Bobby's back.
You're back.
Sorry.
Yeah,
my
you lost you
Discord.
for a second.
Yeah, my apologies. So what I was saying, Iris, was when I put in this value, right, I drop this value from the body here. It's pretty much one of the darkest tones that I could find on the body. When I do that, then that means, or now that I've brought that out and I've expanded that value, we can see how dark it is. So that means that this dark value, and Iris, you're still here, yeah?
Yeah, I am listening.
Okay, great. So that means that this dark value lives in this world, in this little section of your world. So if that dark value does live in this section of the world, then how dark should these values for the hermit crab get? It's not like they need to match the same amount of darkness. It's more that the values in this object need to relate to the values in this other object because they are living in the same, pretty much the same space, getting affected by the same light. And so that's why I darken a bit of that stuff. And if I want to take it further, I could look at these plants and go, yeah, those plants, if there's a tone this dark, then how dark should these plants get? Does that make sense? Are you still there? Am I still on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Right.
By the way, Bobby, in the YouTube chat, Thomas Fluharty was in there.
Hey,
saying
Tom.
hello.
The master.
Yeah.
Right on. Love Tom. Thomas's course, well, actually, he has a few courses on Schoolism, by the way. I took his oil painting course. If you ever wanted to learn how to oil paint, I did a bit in high school. I wasn't very good at it. His course is fantastic because he teaches you the traditional Dutch Flemish oil painting method, which, you know, it has its own name, for crying out loud. It's a tried and true method of learning how to paint in oils. And it's also transferable because nowadays, if I paint with like thick paint, it's generally acrylic rather than oil. It's a little cleaner for me. And I use pretty much the exact same method. So that class is another class that you get with the Schoolism subscription. And the Schoolism sale, you know, it'll be over in less than 24 hours. So right after this, go and sign up. Okay, Iris, I think we're all done there. So I'm going to go on to this next one here. You're very welcome. It's beautiful, beautiful stuff. So, is this person here? Okay, maybe not. All right, then I guess we're all done because that was the last one on my list of ones that we selected for today's portfolio review. If you want another portfolio review, this was fun. I would love to do this again if there's enough interest. Just leave a comment on the YouTube channel, and you know, and I'll do some more if everybody wants me to do.
Thank you, Bobby. That was really awesome to see, and I think even people who maybe didn't, you know, got in, they really took a lot from what you're saying, and yeah, I'm gonna apply those tips. So thank you.
Fantastic. And I forgot this YouTube session here. This is live only. So I'm going to be turning off. I'm going to be making an unlisted video, but I will give the link to everybody in Discord.
Sorry, the person who had the last portfolio is here.
Oh,
there's something wrong with them speaking. Let me check. They should be able to speak now.
Okay, well, as long as...
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, hello. Sorry, but I got a little problem.
No worries. Beautiful work. What's your artistic goal here? Do you have one?
Yeah, so my art goal is to work in illustration / visual development part of industry, but working in games would be awesome too. So as you see, there's a game fan art from me on your screen. Mm-hmm. It's Ciri from The Witcher 3. So yeah, working in this field would be great.
Fantastic. Well, your color sense is wonderful. Your lighting sense, your value design is also really nice. This is just my observation, but it feels like those were your biggest interests. Structure, not as much, right? Like your structure, your paintings hold together because of everything else I was just mentioning, and it actually, the style of it almost allows for a looser structure, and everybody's still very happy with these paintings. But if you want to get into design, then structure is very important. So let me make a new layer here and talk about that a little bit. So going to this character here, it's a wonderful, challenging little assignment here. Just talking about the structure first. We have a head. Great. No crosshairs. Great. We have a neck. And then we have a shoulder. And then we have another shoulder. Right? That looks kind of odd.
Yeah, right.
Then we have the chest. Right? Essentially, it's like this. And then we have the belly button. This would feel kind of strange. Probably could have been like right here. I used to teach life drawing in college, so I'm always like looking at these things. So yeah, I would, you know, and then when we get into like the arm and everything. So structure, that's a big one. That would be the thing I would work on nonstop for you, because your paintings are beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, your brushwork, everything is beautiful. It's your structure that I think also because your paintings are so beautiful, you've gotten away with less structure for a long time. You know? That's what I think it is. So if you get your structure down well and your material indications here, you know, these things here just to show indications, you have a bit of an indication here, but it's blurry. I'm still not sure what that material is. This thing here, it's structure. We need to kind of fix that structure so it doesn't just go up and then that's it. How is it three-dimensionally? And just really work on that. That one, there's really so many courses on Schoolism that talk about structure. The one that comes to mind right off the bat really is the one with Sam Nielsen. Fundamentals of Lighting is actually the title of the course, but he is so structure based. He dissects everything about structure and the light that hits the structure, you know, and so it'll really force you to think about your structure.
Yeah, I'll definitely give it a try. Thank you. I've already did a course by Airi Pan, and it was amazing. So
right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Honestly, she is so beyond her age. She talks like a master. You know, like she explains things like a master, but in a way that it relates to young people, right? Like all her lingo.
Yeah, right.
Okay, great. So the dog, gorgeous, beautiful. Again, it's the texture. All the color is gorgeous. And this is a beautiful painting just as is. But if we wanted to kind of look at this and start bringing some texture in here, it would really change things a lot. Let me just work on the face a little. Oh, actually, I'm out of time. I gotta go run. Maybe next time.
Okay. Yeah, of course, it's fine. Thank you so much for the feedback. I'm really grateful. Thank you. It was an honor to be here. And thank you for saving me.
That's great work. You're gonna do well no matter what.
Thank you so much.
All right, well, it looks like it's time for me to say thank you to all the viewers, to everybody in Discord as well as YouTube. It's been a pleasure, and it's always fun to help everybody. It makes doing this stuff so much more kind of meaningful when I could do it live and everybody's there. The artist is there, so I could actually talk with them. That's very much how I do things on schoolism.com as well. So take a look, get a subscription if anything. You won't be disappointed, I could assure you. And there's less than 1 day left, so get on that. And a final thank you, of course, goes to my wonderful mods, the mod team on Discord, Lightbox Expo Discord, and Nell Patricia leading the team and everything. Patricia doing all that work to get this going. I think she deserves a round of applause. Special thanks to Patricia. All right, everybody, have a great